All right, so what I'm working on today is a beautifully made 1973 Colt Sauer. All right, Sauer. But what I also find is just interesting, made in West Germany. Then you see this beautiful bluing that's on here, right? Like if I can get the lighting right, you can make out my hand in the bluing, right? And you're going to sit here and ask yourself, Kilted, why did this man send it to you? Is it because of this? Is there something wrong with the mechanism itself? I mean, why did he send this to you? Let me show you. That's why, right? And after doing some research, this isn't uncommon for this model, right? But I mean, you can sit here and see how wonderfully shiny this finish is. You can see how beautiful this checkering is, right? Even on the fore end, and how they added a different nose cap, right? I mean, this thing is beautiful, and put some type of poly or something over the top of this, right? I've got to do research and figure out what finish this was. But I mean, even the butt pad here is still soft, and if I got it angled right, I do, and is the original butt pad, right? So customer stated that he took this hunting, right? And he lives up north, and he was in his deer stand, hung it up on the sling, didn't realize that there was some ice, the gun fell, gun snapped, right? And he's been trying to find a gunsmith for years to fix it, and he decided to let me have a try at it. Now, before some people ask, reproduction or another stock is almost impossible to find. There are a few companies that are making them, but they're completely unfinished. So the checkering would still have to be done. It had to finish, be sanded. Everything would have to be fitted up with the rifle, and then it'd have to be sealed and that kind of thing. So the customer doesn't want to go that route. Well, what about a synthetic? Well, I haven't been able to find a synthetic one for this model. I haven't. I tried to do some cross-referencing, still haven't been able to find one. The customer really has his heart set on this stock in particular. So I'm going to do my best in order to get this fixed up. Now, how am I going to fix it? That's going to be the fun part. All right, so basically what I've done is I've just kind of glued this together, right? Which is some cheap glue. I mean, it's not going to hold anything majorly, right? And I came in here and I kind of drew a line on where I want to drill a hole, right, on both sides, okay? And then I came in, and you see that hole just right there, right? And that's about as deep as it's going to go, okay? So now what I get to do is I get to remove this epoxy, because this is only a single point. I'm not going to have the entire pressure of this gun when it's used and go off on just this little thin screw that I'm basically going to put in. I'm going to make a custom stainless steel pin screw thing in it, right? And then I'm going to cover it all up in Acryglass and shove it in, right? What I'm also going to have to sit here and do is basically, let me work around the camera here, right? So I'm trying to keep focus right, but I can see the crack comes all the way down to here, right? So I'm now going to have to come in this way. No, it's not far enough. Come in like so, but you see I ain't got a lot of room here, right? And I'm also going to have to try to come in again this way, right? That way I've got the main one, and I can have two smaller ones just here on both sides. All right, so I've got a little bit more done. I tried to show some lathe work. I really did. But the video quality was absolute garbage. So let me get you set up to where you can actually sit here and see what I've done to the stock so far. All right, so I drilled the hole. Don't worry about all of this. That's just some epoxy that's holding in these transfer pins. right? Just so I could transfer where these holes are and put it on the forend, right? But I drilled this hole, not a problem. Then I also wound up drilling holes here on the side. All this checkering's got to get cleaned up and redone anyways. So yeah. Now the reason I did that is once I make the pin screw thing and shove it down into here, it's going to be full of Acuglass. If I didn't put in these vent holes, right, what would happen is the last quarter to a third would possibly get an air pocket in it, right, to where I'm not having good adhesion from the pin to the wood, right? I might just have some on the wood, I might just have some on the pin, right? So I always put in some little vent holes, okay? And then of course I mounted these where they needed to be, and you see they are at different angles as well. And then I just went ahead and transferred those over into the forend. All right, so now what it is I'm going to pull these pins out. I'm actually going to put the release agent on there to release this epoxy, pull it out and clean everything up, clean all of the old epoxy off of both sides, and actually start making all three of these custom screw pins things, right? I'm going to try again to, have stuff on the lathe. That way I could actually, edit it in here. But it's just really hard where I've got my lathe set up in order to do that. It really and truly is difficult, but I'm going to try to move some stuff around to where maybe I get a better angle, and audio is just going to be audio. There's nothing I can do with it. I'm filming everything on my cell phone, so it's not a big time production. Now, something else I've also done, because this finish is just so beautiful, right? I mean, I could signal a helicopter with that, right? I reached out to Colt and asked them, I was like, hey, this is what I got. I need to know what finish is on here, right? And after being on hold for quite a while, they pretty much told me, we have no idea. That's too old for us to be able to look up in our system. Okay. They said, but we've got good news. It's like, hey, I like good news. Everyone likes good news. Gave me a website, right? And an email address to contact someone to figure out what it is. Because if I can't figure out exactly what it is, then I'm just probably going to go ahead with something like a true oil or just multiple layers of boiled linseed oil and see how that turns out. I don't know. But the next time you see this, I'll have the custom pins and screws made and kind of dry fitted. And then we'll start from there and go into Acuglass. So, yeah. All right, so here's a little bit more on the Colt Sauer. So I tried to do a video and actually set up the tripod and all that fun stuff to where you could actually see me machine the pin, right? But unfortunately, that video quality was just garbage, really and truly. It wasn't a good enough angle to where you could really see. Once I got on top of the machine to start working, the audio, because I'm sitting here talking during it as well, was atrocious at best. But anyway, so here is the first step of the pin. Now I'm going to go in and thread this a little. Basically just do standard threads and then reverse threads and all that fun stuff on here. Because that'll give something a little bit more for the Acuglass to hold on to. But let me show you the progress that I got so far. So I got the new pin in. I've already made this little pin, and I've made the little pin that goes to the top on this one, right? So this is how it's going to kind of sit in the stock. Now, Kilted, why in the hell did you drill a hole right here, right in the middle of the checkering? Oh, dear Jesus God. Oh, my God, that's going to be horrible. That hole is there for a very simple thing. That is a spot for gases to escape. Because once I sit here and smother this pin in Acuglass and start running it down, right? If there wasn't a vent hole then I would have essentially an air bubble down at the bottom of it, right? And that air bubble doesn't have Acuglass. It just has air. And maybe the rod, you know, of course, would go all the way down, but then from, say, the end to the tip of my finger here wouldn't be. So that's not getting good amount of coverage. Well, yeah, Kilted, but now you're completely destroying the checkering and blah, 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 blah. Guys, I'm already having to redo the checkering, right? I'm already going to have to redo it. I tried to put these holes in a spot to where it would look like grain. So let me show you. So you already see there's some black here and black up here and black down here and black down there, right? And a little bit right there. All that's grain, right? And that's why I do Acuglass in black rather than brown. Well, I do brown sometimes, but we're not going there, right? Is once this gets done and I rechecker this and refinish everything, right? Then it should just show up just like normal grain, at least from a distance. Because you have to understand, this stock is broken, right? There's no way of getting around it, okay? It's always going to be broken. So think of it as a broken bone, right? Even if you get an x-ray 20 years after the bone has healed, doctors are going to be able to look at it and go, yeah, you had a broken bone right here, right? But the average person isn't, unless they sit here and go, that's broken. Oh, it was broken once, right? But from, 5-10 feet away, most people aren't going to be able to notice, right? And that's what I'm doing, okay? So calm down. I'm going to sit here and thread this bar right fast to make it my custom pin screw thing, right? And then I'm going to mix up the Acuglass, and we're going to start getting nasty and disgusting and that kind of thing, because Acuglass gets everywhere. It's kind of like sand or glitter. All right, so I got the pins. I wasn't able to thread it, right? Because oddly enough, there we go, lathe that I use for threading is wanting to fault out on any type of load. If I get it above 108 RPMs, it faults it out. So I just went over to the other lathe and just cut some notches in there, so on and so forth, really roughed it up pretty good, just so the Acuglass has somewhere to really stick and adhere. Now some of you are going to sit here and ask, oh, but Kilted, why didn't you just transfer the lathe that you cut all the notches in to, cut threads and that kind of thing? And yes, I could have done that, right? I could have. But that would have taken me about an hour just to switch everything over, thread it, and then switch everything back. This took me 10 minutes. So, yeah. Will it work? Yes. Does it work as much as the threaded ones do? Yeah, but I just like doing the threaded ones just because I like threading stuff, being perfectly honest. Now, I also want to sit here and mention, hey, I'm sorry that the video is shaking and stuff like that. My tripod broke, and I've got another one ordered, and it's supposed to be here in the next day or two. But we've got Acuglass here, right? So this is some that I just mixed up. This is some that I mixed up a couple days ago, and you see how hard it is, right? If you need instruction on how to do Acuglass, let me know, and I can probably do a video on it. But pretty much what we're going to do is we're going to take all of these nice shiny pins and coat them in as much Acuglass as we can get, right? Then once I do all of it, I'm going to smear it all over the stock and start putting things together. So yeah, that's going to be fun. All right, so we got all the Acuglass in, and I'm still having to try to sit here and hold it, right? But you see, that's all the ooze out. So I filled the hole the best that I could with Acuglass, smeared Acuglass all over the rod or screw or pin or whatever you want to put it. And then just started tapping it in. And once it slid all the way in, it actually started oozing out. Okay. And now I've got all this and all of that, right? So now I'm going to sit here and actually wrap all of this up, and we'll be back with y'all here shortly. All right, so I got it glassed all up. I've got some reinforcement underneath here. Don't worry. And then I've wrapped this tubing around it. What this is an old bicycle inner tube that I have coated with body powder, right? And yeah, once you wrap it around, what this will do is rather than clamp it and just having 2 points, it's like wrapping all the way around and clamping like a fist, right? And that's what this rubber tubing does. Now, granted, I could sit here and use something like surgical tubing or something like that, but I have found, because I've used it in the past, and I have found these old inner tubes work best. That, and you can usually go to somewhere like a bike shop or an auto, somewhere that does tires, and they have some, and they will give them to you. Also, side note, all of this black is AccuGlass. Some of it is just the dye. Others are actual AccuGlass. So whenever you're using this stuff, just understand it's going to get everywhere. It's going to get all over everything. So yeah, what I have found is the best to get this off is white vinegar. Downside to that is you smell like pickles. And for someone like me, I hate pickles. I don't like vinegar. Ugh, it just smells bad to me. But anyways, we're going to let this sit up for 24 hours. And yeah, I'll get back to it later. So I'll come back another day. Y'all have fun. All right, so we're going to go into a little bit more of the stock, right? So the stock's now one piece. I've still got some of this to remove, right? But I've left this here for a reason, okay? And then I've got to strip all of this off. Now, I contacted Colt on what they use to refinish this, because you can sit here and see my ring light and everything. Yes, I had to go out and buy a ring light. Leave me alone, right? I've got to do something to make this face more pretty. But Colt could not tell me what finish they put on this. But Colt was able to send me to a website with an email of the guy that's considered like an expert on these Colt Sauer rifles. And I emailed him, and he didn't really know. He gave me a couple of options, and he responded with his friend who's made cabinets for years and years. He believes that it's this. So that didn't really help. And I went a little bit further and reached out to some other people that I know that refinish stocks and that kind of thing. And hell, it came up with everything from being a polyurethane to a fiberglass resin, right? Not the actual glass, fiberglass is in there, but the resin they pour over everything. So yeah, it seems like no one really knows what the original finish on this is, right? Which is sad, because this is so beautiful that if I knew 100% what this was, I would probably start doing it on every single high-end stock refinishing that I do here in the shop. So yeah, now going back to this spot. Since I'm having to strip all of this, I want to see if the stripper is going to do adverse things to the AccuGlass, right? And the product that I'm going to be using is this, a Ready Strip, right? And it's eco-friendly, all that fun stuff. It says on the back that it takes 4 to 24 hours to fully strip something. So yeah, I'm going to sit here and try to apply this. All right, so here's this stuff, and it looks like it needs to be a gel, so I'm going to sit here and kind of agitate it and stir it up a little bit. All right, so I've got it mixed up here, and it sits here and states that I need to put it on thick, not like you're painting it on there, but to get it kind of thicker. Now, I'm wearing gloves. Why? Because I don't want to use a paintbrush, because that's going to put me in the status of putting it too thin. So I'm just going to use my hands, right? So I'm just going to sit here and take some and just gob it on, right? Now, before someone sits here and screams, "Oh, take the butt pad off, take the butt pad off." All right. I'm using this as kind of just an experiment right now, because I don't want to sit here and waste all of this product if it's not going to work, right? I would rather just sit here and use a little bit of it and go from there. So let me remove my glove here. And this is why I love using gloves, because now my hands are nice and clean, right? We dispose of that. And now we're pretty much going to just sit here and wait and see if anything happens. All right, so I'm sitting for this, but I went ahead and scraped it all off. It's been about 4 hours, right? I mean, you can see that finish just came off beautifully, and the wood is still nice and smooth. Granted, I'm still going to come over this with some really fine sandpaper, probably like start out with 1,000 grit and go from there. But what I'm using is a scraper, right? This is a cabinet scraper. You can use a putty knife. You can use anything. But really and truly what you're going to do is just scrape, right? Now, some of you are going to ask, well, if you're just scraping it, why don't you scrape it off as it is and not use the chemical? Because, watch. This is hard stuff. You see, I just made a scratch, right? This is hard stuff. Well, Kilted, go after it with a razor blade. So we've got a razor blade. Granted, I've used this on the other side to get some stuff off. That's why it's nasty. It's working a little bit better, granted. But I'm still not down to the finish. Still not down to the finish. You see what I'm getting at? Now, for me to scrape this off after, once again, it sat there for 4 hours, it really and truly was like scraping, butter. I mean, it was great just to peel that off. That kind of thing. On a different note, and I just got off the phone with Brownells for this, is all the Acuglass that we had here, I'm able to get it out of the checkering, right? So like I've got just a single line cutter here, right? And I'm going to try to get you in focus here, right? And while also, but I'm not applying any pressure, okay? I don't know how well that's coming up, but you see we've got a little blob right here that's just moved out, right? I can sit here. Where's my skewer? I had a skewer. Here we go. Bamboo skewer. I can actually get in here with it. I don't know if you're seeing it, but it's just coming right on out, right? And the reason that this is significant, because any of us who has ever used Acuglass in a large amount, knows that once it's dry, it's dry, right? And then basically what happens is I have to come back with this and recut every single damn line, which isn't a problem. I price it knowing that. It's just time consuming. With this, I'm willing to bet that I could probably get a copper brush, and I'm going to pause this and get one. And it should come out fairly easy, and a lot of it, so I'm not doing one line at a time. Hold on. All right, so this is a copper brush. It's a new one, doesn't have any oil or anything on it. I know it looks like hell, but that's just because it is what it is. We're not going to get into that. But now let's see how that does. So I've kind of got you in view, and I'm just sitting here scrubbing one way. Scrubbing the other way. I mean, look. You can see the dust is coming out, and you see most of it's gone, right? And of course, I've got a bunch of the flakes just here on my hand, right? Now that's flakes of Acuglass. Now I have to be careful because I don't want to get it in where I have repaired the crack. So this is probably as far up as I'm going to go. So from here to the crack, I'm still going to have to recut, essentially. But you're talking about taking a lot less time, right? And so I'm very excited about that. Like I said, I contacted Brownells to let them know that. And they're sitting here going, wait, do what? I go, yeah. They go, we have never heard of anything. Does it have alcohol in it? Or acetone in it? And I went, yeah, it's got some type of alcohol in it that I can't pronounce. They went, okay, that's probably it. But, you know, we've done testing to where, you know, so on and so forth, and it didn't, it's hard to get stuff out. And I go, yeah, but I'm picking this out, and y'all just watch me pick it out with a bamboo meat skewer, right? And then brush it out with a copper brush, okay? So, yeah, they're very excited about that, and yeah. So anyways, I'm going to keep getting at this. Y'all have fun. All right, everyone, so I'm going to do this quick because as you can see right here, the shop manager is doing my monthly report. So I've got to do this fast. But this is the stock after it's been stripped, right? I'm going to sit and kind of mess with the lighting a little bit. Y'all excuse me. Let me get a little brighter. There we go. All right. Uh-huh. Yeah. So you can see that all of that has gotten out of the checkering, right? Now I've still got some cleanup, just wipe it down kind of thing on the inside here before I go to refinish this. But next up is I'm going to redo all of this checkering, clean it out really well, and you're going to sit here and see those holes, right? Those vent holes. Watch them almost disappear, right? And then I cleaned up the grip cap here, right? I know it looks pretty dull right now, but that's going to shine up really well. But I've also been doing some figuring, right? So this is a 3x checkering, right? And it is 20 lines per inch. Now, before some people sit here and ask, what does 3x mean, okay? The human eye likes things either 3 or 3.5 when it comes to checkering, right? So right here we have a guide, right? And this is 3.5, and it sits here and says using these lines as, I can't read backwards, master guideline yields diamonds 3.5 times longer than their width, right? And this is just the same thing, except it says 3 times longer, right? And that's actually how you get the diamonds. Now, there are other angles in there that people have done in the past, but the 3 or the 3.5 are the most common. Now, what do we mean by 20 lines per inch? That means on this checkering, right? You see all the different lines and everything. Some are going up this way. There it goes. It actually focused, right? And others are going this way, okay? That means for every square inch that's in here, I've got 20 lines going this way, and I've got 20 lines going this way. Yeah, now that's not the finest I've ever done. The finest I've ever done was a 28, and that was a lot of fun. Yes, we'll say fun. Yeah, 18, 20s, and 22s are your most common, okay? So now what I'm going to do is I am going to chalk this up in my checkering cradle, right? And then I'm going to sit in here and start recutting these, okay? Because you see, not only do I need to sit here and get out all the acroglass, and of course the acroglass that's in the crack itself, right? And recut this line right here in front of my fingernail, right? But I've also lost a good bit down here as well, okay? Right? And then on this side, I lost even more because I got a little aggressive with the shaping, right? Reshaping. So I've got that to clean up. That I've got to recut. And if you look, yeah, we've got a lot of cutting to do there, right? So, yeah, once that's done, right, by which that is going to take me several hours to do, okay? And I do mean several. But the way that I work, just so I don't go cross-eyed, is I'll sit here and work for half an hour, and I'll leave it alone for half hour to an hour. Then I come back and work on it for half an hour, and then keep rotating out so my eyes don't get that fatigued, okay? So yeah, that's probably going to be an all-day process, just doing these, okay? Of course, broken up so I can work on other stuff as well. So yeah, let me go ahead and set it over here in my makeshift cradle that y'all are kind of seeing right here. All right, so now comes the fun part. I'm actually going to sit here and start checkering this Colt stock, okay? And I'm also going to sit here and play with some camera angles. Rather than me actually sitting here and having the camera right here in my face and me work around it, I'm going to have it set up to where it appears from your point of view to be across from me. And this isn't going to be a full video of y'all watching me cut every single line. This is just going to be kind of like the highlight reel. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so now that I'm doing this one, and I don't know how well it's going to show up, but you see we've already got outlines pretty good, right? Now, normally I would sit here and do this in a, dadgummit, I slipped out of my stand here. I would use a white grease pencil, but I noticed earlier that it doesn't show up very well. So what I'm going to do is I've already got this line here. God, I hope y'all can see all this because I can't see the camera. And then it comes down. We have this point, but I need to draw it out a little bit further, right? And then we come down, and I'm just eyeballing this right now, right? Just trying to get an idea, because then we got to come up this way. And so those lines are going to intersect right about there, right? I don't know if you could see that. I'm going to have to tighten this thing up a little bit, right? And then I'm going to come back across this way, right? And then of course the tip's got to be cleaned up. And then we have our line continuing back around, right? Now I'm going to sit here and just focus on this side. We're not going to worry about this side right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get my straight line tool and actually make these 3 lines that I've drawn straight, okay? Because now I see where the points are at, I see where this one intersects, and I see where it lines up with the checkering down here, right? So now I can use a straight tool to finish all that. Let me pause this, tighten up my handmade redneck checkering board here. All right, so I got my little guide here, and once again you see that on this side it sits here and says 3 by, this one is 3.5 by. I know that this stock is 3 by, so I'm going to use its straight lines. Now some people are going to sit here and go, Zach, you're using straight lines. Straight line's a straight line. I understand that, but it also helps me because I can put one edge on the backside line here, right where my middle finger's touching, and it will help draw this line correctly on this side, right? And then I know I've got 3 again, and I've got a good line starting, and this is where it's handy to be slightly ambidextrous, okay? Because now there's I gotta reposition here. This is what takes a lot of time, because if you screw this up, the whole job's going to be screwed up. All right, and now I want to hold it. Keep that on line, and I draw this back line. All right. Now let me kind of show you what we got. So you can see, let me see if I can, I'm not going to be able to zoom in very well, but we've got our dotted lines here, right? But our main line is probably about, at the base here, about a little over 1/8 of an inch above it, right? And same with this line, right? Our dotted line goes a little bit higher than our main line, okay? And so there's maybe a 32 of an inch there. Now, if I would have just kept with my dotted lines there, this whole checkering project would have been off, and you would have sat here and seen some weird looking stuff there, okay? So let me pause this and grab the next tool. Alright, so now what I'm going to use is a very sharp X-Acto knife, and I'm going to go back over these straight lines, right? And what that's going to do is give me a guide for my single cutter here, right, to actually ride in. Now understand, I am not sitting here and jabbing this thing down as far as I can get it, okay? I just need to use just the tip, okay? And I'm just going to sit here and go right along. And I don't have my normal lighting that I usually do this, because if I did bring out my lighting, y'all wouldn't be able to really see anything, because it is bright, okay? So I'm having to kind of work around here with what light I've got. Now this part of the video is not going to have a lot of audio, so go a little off there. So that's that. Now I'm going to set this in a safe spot so I don't cut myself later. And I'm going to come in with a single line cutter. Now with all your cutters, right, they're cut in such a way to where it's either going to cut while pushing or cut while pulling, right? So now I just get lined right back up on the line, and you can feel it. You can feel the tip of these cutting tools when they hit the line that I just scored, okay? And I'm just very lightly, I'm not putting any pressure at all, just hitting this line, right? Now also understand that these cradles, you see checkering cradles for sale online, and they're, $100 or more, right? You don't need them, okay? This was a 2x4 I had, then I just cut it. You can find plans on the internet, and drilled some holes so I could move this end, the buttstock in closer if need be, and that kind of thing. I also have a block of wood that sits in here that has holes drilled for 1911 grips, and further down it's got a spot for like Smith & Wesson grips, so on and so forth. So I'm going to sit here and finish cutting this line, because I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it. Like I said, I can't see my monitor with the way it's set up, but let me see if I can get a listen. Alright, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's the line that I just cut. It's not very deep, right? And whenever I do this on a grander scale, I'll actually have lights set up from this angle and from this angle so you're casting a shadow, because you're not truly, when you're cutting checkering, you're not following a line, you're following the shadow of a line. That's where it gets difficult. So I'm going to stop this. I'm going to go back and clean up these lines a little bit better, get some of this ink off of it, and yeah, be back in a bit. All right, so I don't know how well the video is showing up. I kind of moved the camera to where I can kind of sort of see, and you can kind of sort of see what's going on. But I'm going to grab my X-Acto knife. So I've cut all the lines again, right? And now you sit here and you look in areas like right here, right? Come on. There we go. They seem to be a good bit deeper, and that's because they are, right? But I will clean and blend everything up here in just a minute. What we've got, right? So this is unfinished. This just got through a sanding and the recheckering of everything. Trying to get it right in the light for you, right? Here, maybe, there we go. Okay. I've still got to do some cleanup, you know, get my notes off the side of it here. And now I'm actually going to sit here and test fire it. Now I am 99.999% sure that this firearm will work flawlessly, okay? But I'm still going to test fire it. Why? Because I test fire everything. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rounds, okay? 4 rounds of 30-06. This is Winchester white box. I think it's 150 grain, either 150 or 160 grain. So yeah, let me go ahead and shoot it. Alright, and there we go. Now what I'm going to do, of course, is I'm going to clean the weapon because it needs to be cleaned now that I've shot it. And of course, I'm going to come in here and do a finishing sanding, is what I call it. Basically, I'm going over it with about 2000 grit. And I'm going to sand all this down, and it'll also get rid of my notes. And then I'm going to sit here and put a finish over the top of this. So, yeah. I think it turned out really well. Alright, so right here is really where I'd like to sit here and show you the finished product. But I filmed it, and it was a nice little panning thing. And it played for about 1 second and then just stopped. So it was, yeah, annoying. I've done some research. I've reached out to a couple of friends of mine that are in IT. The best they could tell me is that it was somehow got corrupted. No idea how that works. And unfortunately, the firearm is now in the hands of the customer, so I can't get it back to refilm. So I'm going to have to take note to edit all these videos before I ship it out. Anyways, I do apologize. I'm going to do more and try to do better, right? So I'm sorry. I hope y'all have enjoyed it. And as always, y'all have a good one.